Hi, I'm Deborah Terry. I'm a professional classical violinist, and I was asked to tell you what that means, what my life is like. Um, well, the main thing is that I don't have just one job. I have many, many jobs. I am a teacher and uh, a violinist in a number of symphonies. I play chamber music. I play by myself. I play at churches. Um, and so all of that fits together somehow as a big jigsaw puzzle to create my job. So gig economy before gig economy was a thing. Um, but it's always been that way for classical musicians. Um, Bach didn't just compose, he was also a church organist and taught lessons. It's just always been this way for musicians. Um, as for teaching, I have currently about 20 students. Um, I teach my own two daughters as well, so they're in the mix of that 20. So I have to fit in 20 uh, private lessons each week. I teach Monday through Saturday, um, but also I teach some group classes as well. So those 20 students are split up into 3 group classes, and those happen each week as well. And then I'm currently a member of 3 symphonies. I'm in Michigan, so I play in the Flint Symphony, Flint, Michigan. I'm sure you've heard about it. Flint in the news. I've been with the Flint Symphony. I first got the job in 2002, but then I took a 7-year break, and then came back and got the job again in 2015. So I've been back for 7 years as well. And I'm in the first violin section there, that symphony. And I'm also in the Saginaw Symphony. I don't really remember when I first started playing in Saginaw. Probably 2003 or 4. I took the same 7-year break. We moved out of state and then came back, and I've been with them again since 2015. And then I'm also the concertmaster of the Dearborn Symphony. I've been there for 5 years. Concertmaster is a little different than just a section player. My responsibilities there include doing all of the bowings for the first violin section and making sure that my bowings get to the rest of the string principals so that they can bow their parts to match mine. But then also I'm, I guess you could describe it as I'm the quarterback to the symphony, where the conductor is the head coach. And it's rare, but it does happen where I have to be ready to step in or take over if something happens. There was actually a concert where the conductor got a bit flustered trying to follow a piano soloist, and so I just took over, and I caught the eye of the other principal players, and they just followed me. I followed the pianist, and it all worked out. That's the concertmaster has to be ready to do things like that. Whereas just a section player just has to follow really well, which is also challenging at times. And symphony work is really rewarding in that it's a group project, but it's one where everybody has to do their part, and then you put on this performance where when it's good, it is so good. You're all counting the same beat, you're feeling the same beat together, like 100 people feeling the same beat. Your heartbeats almost line up. You're breathing together. You're moving as one. I suppose it'd be probably like being one in a flock of birds or a school of fish. You just all move harmoniously, and um, and you can really just completely lose yourself in that, and it's really amazing. Um, some of my favorite concerts, I have lost myself completely in the pieces, and when it's done, then you hear the applause and remember, oh yeah, we just did that in front of people. Hi. And you come out of like this euphoric trance, and it's pretty amazing. I think I was asked to share with you some of my favorite composers to play. Um, Tchaikovsky's symphonies are amazing. Rachmaninoff symphonies, piano concertos. I'm a sucker for the Russian romantics, honestly. It's good stuff. But Beethoven symphonies, Brahms. Oh, Brahms. Brahms is good. Um, yeah. French music, like Debussy and Ravel, Impressionist, that's also really amazing. I developed quite a love of new music while I was living out in New Mexico. Um, Actually, right before I moved out there, I was fortunate enough to see a concert of the Detroit Symphony being conducted by a contemporary composer named John Adams. Um, I believe you saw one of my videos, actually, of a John Adams piece called Dharma et Big Sur, written for a 6-string electric violin. I got to see John Adams conduct the Detroit Symphony with one of my favorite violinists, Leela Josefowitz. And I have just loved everything that he's written on the first hearing. That's not terribly common for me. I do love new music, but sometimes it takes me a little bit of time to understand it. John Corigliano is also amazing. He wrote the soundtrack for a movie called The Red Violin. Yeah, there's some really great new contemporary composers. And we have to be open to them. I mean, at one time Beethoven was a contemporary composer, and I mean, we have to allow ourselves to hear what is new, and not everything that's new sticks around for a long time. The really good stuff will last, but everything has its place in the evolution, and it's important as musicians that we experience it and see what's happening, and learn it, and deliver it to the best of our ability to the audience so that they can experience it as well. And then the good stuff will stick around and become like the Beethovens and Bachs and Brahms and Mozart, of course, Prokofiev. Chamber playing I did a lot of chamber playing out in New Mexico. I don't do so much here in Michigan. We're all just so spread out up here that we don't get together to do it very much. Chamber music would be like quartets or trios or just small ensembles, normally without a conductor. That's really rewarding though when you can do it, because you have to learn to work with other people and admit your own faults and find constructive ways to speak to your colleagues about things that maybe they could be doing better. Working together to find a way to express what you think is in the music. It's a lot of give and take and learning how to take turns and play well with others. It's a lot of fun and rewarding in its own way. A lot of classical musicians love chamber music the most, and we will even just read through stuff for fun. We get together and just play through quartets or quintets or octets or what have you for fun. We do our job on our downtime because I love it. It's actually what I do if I need to get away from my kids for a bit. Take my violin off and go read some music with some other people. As you saw in the video, I do sometimes get to play some solo repertoire. It's not very often, but I do love it. Not everybody loves playing solos. I discovered later in life. I thought everybody wanted to do that. Apparently that's not normal. But somebody has to do it, and I love doing it, and I'm happy to do it as often as possible. That piece that you saw, the Dharma at Big Sur, that one was a big one for me, because it is on such a strange instrument. I actually have the instrument here. I was asked to show it to you a little more up close. This is my 6-string electric. You can see we've got the 6 pegs. That's different than an acoustic, a classical acoustic, because we would only have 4 pegs, 4 strings. This one has, oh, and it's completely out of tune, but it has the same 4 that are on the violin, the normal violin, E, A, D, G, but then it also has a C, which is on the viola, but then also an F. It has this very low F string, which you hear at the beginning of that concerto, and to me that sounds like whales speaking to each other. Big Sur is a part of California overlooking the Pacific Ocean. So it sounds to me at the beginning of that piece that maybe John Adams or somebody is standing on the cliffs looking out over the ocean, and maybe there's whales out there, and you can imagine them singing to each other, and they have that very low voice, so that F string comes into play there. But there's nothing terribly exciting about it. I mean, it is exciting in that it's electric, so it doesn't make a lot of sound by itself. There's no resonant body to it. One has to plug it in. Got all the plugins back there and some knobs. Electric instruments can get very fancy and very expensive. This one I just honestly found on eBay, shipped from China. I think it was maybe $300. With the electric instruments, it's more about getting a good sound engineer, good mic hookups and preamps, and it's a lot in the electrical side, and again, the sound engineer. Without a good sound engineer, you're kind of dead in the water. And I was very lucky to get to work with my good friend Carl on that performance, and he made me sound good. Um, it was interesting learning this piece though, because I had to read notes that I've never read before. Certainly not on the violin. I do also play the piano. I'm not a pianist, but I can play the piano. I can read the music, and but I'd never played some of those lower notes in this position before, and that was strangely very odd for my brain. That took some work, but all things that are certainly doable, and that's another thing that we have to be ready. We have to be adaptable, and be willing to change and learn new things, because you can't play Beethoven forever. I mean, you can, but you can't make a living on that. The audiences are getting tired of hearing Beethoven and Brahms and Mozart and Haydn and all those dead old white guys. And fair enough. In Beethoven's time, they didn't really want to hear the Renaissance music anymore either. I get it. It's fine. We got to keep Mahler going, though. We still have to be able to play that stuff, but also the new things, and maybe we mess with the old stuff a little bit and try some new things with it. I think there's absolutely a place for that as well. I used to play with a group called the Trans-Siberian Orchestra. I wasn't on tour with them. I was one of the local musicians that they hire in different regions. You get to play a handful of shows before they move on. But they like to take Mozart for sure, and some Beethoven. Liszt is a composer mainly for piano, and they take their pieces and rock it out. I mean, just like they do with the Christmas carols. Rocked out Christmas carols. Rocked out Mozart. And why not? If Mozart had access to electric instruments, he 100,000% would have used them. If he had access to pyro, yeah, he would have put that in his operas. Bach probably not so much. He was very, very religious, and it was all about the church. But Mozart. So I all for it. Adapting their music, take their music and add the new stuff to it. I think Mozart would have been all in on that. Speaking of church, excuse me, church playing is also a portion of my work. I actually do play at a church every Sunday, with a quartet, which would not have been out of the ordinary in Bach's time. It is now, but it's luckily something I get to do. Definitely, it's done for holidays. Christmas and Easter are some of my busiest times, with all Easter, right? I mean, you have the whole Holy Week, and there's music involved in that. And within Christmas, everybody wants to have Christmas music, Christmas concerts with the symphony music, special music at the churches, holiday parties. So that's another thing about being a classical musician. You don't really get the holidays, not even the 4th of July, because people like to hear the Tchaikovsky 1812 overture with their fireworks, right? So I work holidays often, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with playing the 1812 and then going off stage and watching the rest of the fireworks with friends and family. So to get to do the job that I get to do, I went to school for it. I went to Michigan State. I got a degree in music performance, violin performance, which just means I practiced a lot, like a good 6 to 8 hours every day. Took private lessons with one teacher. And so that's 1 hour a week with one professor, just one-on-ones. And then there were symphony rehearsals, and I took music theory, which is like grammar, right? Learning how to write music, which helps you understand music, music history, all the way back to the medieval ages to now, just understanding how it progressed and what's what in there. So I have a bachelor's in music performance, and I also have a master's of music performance, one from Michigan State University and the other from the University of New Mexico in Albuquerque. The master's was more in chamber music, very, very in-depth in chamber music, but also while I was doing that master's, I was getting my long-term Suzuki violin teacher training out in Albuquerque. And that was one-on-one mentorship with a master teacher out there. There were lecture courses where there were a big group of us learning the teaching points of all the pieces in the Suzuki repertoire. And but then my mentor would watch me teach private lessons and give me pointers, and I would have other mentors watching me teach group classes and giving me pointers and stepping in if it was needed. If something wasn't working, I could step in and say, "Well, try this," and then I became a mentor in the program, and I'm out on my own. So in all, the degree programs took me 8 years. So I have 8 years of university education. One could go on to get a doctorate in a number of specific places in music. I could get a doctorate of performance. I don't desire one, because honestly, a performance degree is not really needed. It's not needed to do my job. Having good lessons and practicing a lot is absolutely needed. Having the understanding of theory and history rounds out my ability to do my job very well, but the actual education is not in any way necessary. That there are, I don't think any symphony actually cares if you went to school or where you went to school. It's, can you play, and can you play well with others? So in that way, it's really great that as long as you can do the job, you get to do the job. You don't have to be trained. Most of us are. And I do know of a handful of performers at the very high level in the US who never actually finished their degrees. They were lucky enough to get the job before they actually graduated. That's rare, extremely rare, because you just need the time to practice. But yeah, so that's my job. It's crazy. It's a really old job that thankfully is still happening, and it honestly cannot happen without an audience, without people who go to the symphony, without people who support the symphony financially, and just by having butts and seats. And I'm always grateful to anybody that comes to a symphony concert, even if they're we had a young family at a concert very recently. Their young daughter fell asleep, and so I told them after the concert, please keep bringing her. We don't care if she fell asleep. I honestly, growing up, always fell asleep. It's a really great nap. And none of us on stage care. You're still there and you're hearing it and you came, and that means everything. So, and you don't have to wear fancy clothes to come see us. We have to wear fancy clothes because that's our uniform, but you don't have to wear a tuxedo or even a suit to come to the symphony. Just come. Just just come, please. And there you go. If you have any other questions, you can put them down below, and I'll answer them as quickly as I can. And otherwise, I hope to see you at the symphony. Thank you.